Hello and welcome to Off the Field and Screens, the Detroit Way, a Detroit sports podcast. I'm your host, Chad Marriott, and as you can see, we have a little bit of a new setup, a new background. Thank you to my brother and sister-in-law for getting me this cool flag for the Detroit Way. All right, so let's jump in. It's been a minute, but I want to start with the Pistons, and I want to start with the overreactions to the loss against the Rockets. Every time the Pistons struggle or they lose, there's just all these writers, pundits, etc., media just swinging in. Trade for somebody. They got to trade for somebody because Cade needs help. This team is terrible other than Cade. And they're still first in the East. If they win their next game, it'll be a 6-game lead in the conference. So I think that a lot of this, they gotta have another guy. It's a little bit of an overreaction. However, I still think that some of that is a little bit of clickbait, particularly the ones that are suggesting names that are never going to happen. Like, the Pistons aren't getting Jaren Jackson. That's not happening. That's not a thing. That's just to get you to click. But a few things to look at with some of those remarks. I still think Jaden Ivey, for the extra ball handler and the outside shooting and the extra scoring, I still think that Ivey, as you're seeing him kind of get back into shape and getting healthy again, slowly progressing towards that, I think that he can be that second, that I guess on this team would be the third star, because Jalen Duren is the second star. I still think it's possible. And, it's a tough injury to come back from. And I think you're seeing the jump shots really coming now. And you're starting to see, he's just that one gear away where he's like, I can't quite play at this really high, fast pace. But once he gets comfortable playing at that speed again, I really think the Pistons have something that can take them into another gear. I saw an interesting take that on Tobias Harris that kind of goes along with what I said before about the respect he has in the locker room and the way that guys this team kind of looks up to him, respects him, and the chemistry that's going on with this team. But I think there's something to be said that he signed here and came back here when the Pistons were really bad. And now, they've jumped up to being one of the best teams in the league. And I think there is something to that philosophy that as an organization that people don't want to be viewed as, you're just a stepping stone. Well, if you helped build something, you want to have that respect and keep them there. And long term, I would like to see Tobias Harris come back to the Pistons next year, just not for this dollar amount. And I think he would consider taking a smaller deal to stay. Particularly, I'm almost starting to wonder, even with this lineup now, with how they've started slow defensively, the starting lineup the last few games, would it be worth putting Isaiah Stewart into that starting lineup and bringing Harris off the bench to give that second unit a little bit more shooting? I don't know. A little bit more scoring. Somebody that they can really just go to offensively when they have, that Holland, that more of the Holland lineups out there. To play with Holland, Javonte Green, sometimes, Jenkins, to have that bigger scorer that they can go to. I don't know. Things are obviously working well right now, so wouldn't want to mess that up. Another media comes swinging in is Malik Monk, who was a topic of conversation for the Pistons in the offseason. Had a good game against the Pistons. So therefore, as per our usual arrangement, everyone was, oh yeah, we gotta get Malik Monk. Which, okay, here's the deal with Malik Monk. He's the definition of a player that puts up good numbers on a bad team. He's been on one playoff team and 2 teams with winning records in the 9 seasons he's been in the NBA, including this season. Including this season, he has shot over 36% from the 3-point line twice. So all the 3-point shooting remarks, he's good, not great. And at the cost, he has 2 years after this season, so you'd have to take him this year and 2 years after that at $20 million a year. I just don't think that has value in it. I know that there's this still obsession, and it's an incorrect obsession, about the Golden State Warriors and how they won their titles with the 3-point shooting. But it wasn't about shooting high volume of threes. It was about taking the best shot and working for the best shot. They were they took that San Antonio model and put it into effect with 3-point shooting, right? As a part of it more than as the game evolved. So I don't think that high volume shooters are necessarily good, because it seems to me that people judge 3-point shooting now not on the percentage that you make, but the percentage about how many you shoot. That, oh, I like that guy because he shoots a lot of threes. Well, how many is he making? Well, in volume, he's making a lot. But in volume, a lot of times, guys that take a lot of threes like that, there are a lot of players that are low-value players because they shoot a lot of threes. Because those are bad possessions. They're taking quick shots. They're taking shots in bad positions, long misses leading out to fast breaks. I think that there has to be a balance between, finding some shooting, but not adding necessarily just a high-volume shooter that, oh, he made 4 threes tonight. He's 4 for 12, and 4 of the 8 misses led to fast break layups for the other team. That's a bad formula. Just for example, Cade Cunningham makes the second most threes per game on the Pistons, but he has the 11th highest 3-point shooting percentage. Now, does that mean he's the team's second best 3-point shooter? Or that's a high value add for the Pistons to have their 11th best outside shooter taking that many shots? Now, of course, if a few other players shot in higher volume, maybe they would be lower. I understand that. But I think the point remains the same, that I don't know that just because you shoot more threes, that's necessarily going to be a value add versus adding a player that maybe doesn't shoot as many but makes a higher percentage. Because I think there's got to be a weighted limit to it, because you're seeing some teams that just chuck it. Like I think the Hornets are one of those teams that that the Pistons have played this year, is that just chuck a lot of threes, and a couple of nights they'll make a high percentage and they'll win the game. But that is not a sustainable way to win basketball games. Like the Golden State Warriors showed, and the Spurs before that, it's not about shooting a lot of threes, it's about finding the best shot. And a high percentage shooter like the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry, taking 15 threes a game, 20 threes a game, that's good. Malik Monk shooting 12 to 15 threes a game, I'm not so sure about that. And for all the consternation over that one game, the Pistons have won 9 of 12 and haven't lost back-to-back games since December 28th, so nearly a month ago, which was only the second time they had lost back-to-back games this season. They did have a little period where they struggled around the holidays, and I think that was the travel and being young and the holidays, that combination of things. But so my question is, am I being naive about the about the Pistons' chances this year. Are they kind of like the Tigers, where they had this massive first half and they're the first to 40 wins, first to 50 wins, first to 60 wins, going in the All-Star break, one of the best teams in baseball. A team, essentially, are the Pistons a team that is massively overperforming based on untraditional stats? Like the baseball example would be the way the Tigers were covering up for their lack of power with extending singles into doubles and doubles into triples and those types of things, and playing a really high level efficient defense, running the bases, etc., going from first to third, on a single. Those types of things. Are the Pistons doing that with their blocking a lot of shots, coming up with a lot of steals, forcing a lot of turnovers, playing really good defense? I don't think so, though. Because I think unlike the Tigers, I think the Pistons have only one clear weakness. I think they still are likely going to need another outside shooter, but not in the way that the media would like to sell it. Externally, I'm not sure how they'd address it. I don't know who they would get. I think anyone on a long-term $20 million a year contract is a no-go based on how Trajan Langdon operates and how he's operated in Detroit. I think internally, you have the hope that Ivy, Marcus Sasser, Danis Jenkins could develop into those kinds of players, those secondary ball handlers with a high outside shooting, playmaking. I think that would be the internal hope, is one of those three, or even two of those three, can really step it up. And I saw serious space in I think it was a Sacramento game when Ivy and Robinson played out there together. The paint just opened up. Very specifically, I recall they were both standing in each corner, and Cade got right to the basket, and I don't think he made that shot, but still you saw the huge gaps because those defenders were having to stay with those shooters. For all what I said, Jenkins is quietly shooting 40% from the three-point line this season. It's not a high volume amount of shots, but he's shooting well enough that you have to respect him from out there. Sasser is obviously capable of being a legitimate scorer. I think the long-term solution that they're looking at, possibly like a hope development, is that a player like Chaz Lanier could develop into that, and he would be a long-term affordable option. I think the mistake that we could make, though, is saying that the Pistons shouldn't go all in and overpay for a star on a bad contract. Therefore, they should do nothing. See, that would be the mistake, is saying, well, I don't think they should do this huge thing, therefore they should do nothing. I still think that they need to have a clear solution, whether that be playing Ivy more or adding a player like, on a mid-tier contract that plays like a Duncan Robinson. I think that would be the more valuable route to go. All right, so let's turn to the Red Wings, also in first place. I think you probably have to go back to at least 2008, but I feel like very likely 2006 for the last time that the Pistons and Red Wings were both in first place in late January. I really think you'd have to go back 20 years. Now, their situation is a little different. They aren't quite contenders like the Pistons are, but they're definitely in a position to add at the deadline. I think of the two teams, this would be the one that could be more aggressive. But they are looking to add in a similar way to how I've described the Pistons. They have a few clear needs. Obviously, this has been talked to death. They need another defenseman. And I think they could get some value out of adding another center to maybe play that second or third line. But, and this could change things, is seeing how Marco Kasper's been playing lately could change the Red Wings' thinking a lot. Because he has 6 points in his last 5 games, and that's 6 of his 12 points he's had on the season. So if he really is, if this isn't just a small flare-up, which it could be, that could pay huge dividends to having, another player in the lineup in your top 6 that is really contributing. He's been playing a lot better, not just in the scoring, but overall he's played a lot better. The depth scoring has improved, which at one point I thought they're going to have to get more, but James Van Riemsdyk has been incredible. I'm actually curious if we can't pull those numbers up. As a part of a really good offseason for the Yzerman and the Red Wings. Let's just go back to the start of this month. Yeah, in the 12 games he's played in January, he's had 13 points, 5 goals, 8 assists. I mean, he's been huge for their success. I think Comfer, obviously, he had 2 goals the other night, but he's been playing better overall as well. Not for a while it felt like anyway. And I've been really happy with Soderblom. I think there's more potential there. And Johansson has been playing better lately too. Just seeing all these pieces, all these players kind of starting to fit better together and play better and progressively get a little better. You're not seeing the big valleys anymore, like the terrible, like what were they thinking level mistakes. It's just kind of doing this, which is good, obviously. But those are things that maybe don't go by national media standards, don't go, kind of go unseen, like these micro improvements across the board where they're playing better. And just to note it, I mean, it would be ridiculous not to mention it. John Gibson has made an unbelievable difference. Just unbelievable. I had his numbers pulled up since the start of December. He's 17-2 with a .931 save percentage. I mean, just playing unbelievably well and really kind of stealing some games and keeping the Red Wings in games. I mean, that trade alone to get him made this offseason for the Red Wings a huge win. And then, I mean, you can go up and down the board. The rookies that they have this season, have had their ups and downs, but I think overall Finney and Sandin Pellikka, it was been good for them to have them on the roster this season. All right. Let's turn to the Tigers. A little bit more of a contentious topic. They added some pitching, but they're largely just running it back this year. You might see another starter added. I think I've seen reports of possibly like Lucas Giolito, I think. Is that correct? I'm still in the camp of I think they should add Justin Verlander, but that's not going to happen. I'm trying to find this, and everything is just trade Scooble trade. Clickbait, please. Click on me. Source, trust me, bro. All right. So what they're you might see another too. I think like a fielder. You could see like a Gio Urshela type, which I know to a lot of Tigers fans, they're like, please, God no. But I liked Urshela. I don't mind the contact hitters, but I mean I wouldn't want to block one of these young players for that. If you're gonna block them, I would rather see them go get somebody with a little pop. Not one of these players, like we said before, just because it's not X doesn't mean you can't find a medium. One of these players that hits with a little power, but not like a 198 batting average. That really doesn't work, especially when you have to play half your games at Comerica Park. It's just such a big field that the power hitter's batting average just plummets. It's home run or get out, and that is not a sustainable way to win baseball games at Comerica Park. They're putting their eggs in the internal development basket again, and I've always been for this approach across all sports, but I wonder if they could take a page out of their pitching playbook where they sign a lot of guys, the way they add pitchers, they sign a lot of players that they think maybe we can unlock some potential here. And I know it's not as simple because there's to do that with, like a batter with a swing the way you can with, adding a pitch or changing a grip or, whatever with the pitching. But I just wonder if there's like you could take a flyer on somebody with like maybe in this lineup, if, we change this thing, this player could be X, Y, or Z, sort of like they did with like Jahmai Jones last year, which you would think, oh, that's an irrelevant addition, but it turned out to be kind of a key ad for the Tigers. So maybe there's something like that in an outfield player. Maybe the difference is Matt Vierling coming back and he unlocks some power or something. But I'm really interested to see, and I think this is kind of the key for this season, the storyline to follow, is how Dylan Dingler, Colt Keith, and Parker Meadows, if they break out a bit more, especially with some more power, if those players can turn it up a notch, does that take this team from that, division contender to World Series contender? And it would have to be at least two of those three. And if you could see Dingler and Keith really breaking out and Parker Meadows just becoming somebody that bats well enough to stay in the lineup, because that's going to be huge for the way he plays center field, especially at Comerica Park. But I don't know. I think that's the big line this year, the big thing to follow. I think another one would be, what are they going to do at shortstop? Can the Baez-McKinstry platoon produce enough out of that position? And I know that A.J. Hinch loves tinkering with his lineups, but I really think the question this season is going to be, can they produce? Can some of these platoon positions produce consistently enough, rather than the Baez-McKinstry amazing all-star level first halves and kind of struggling a lot in the second half. That's a position that's tough to have a hole in the lineup at. All right, Lions time. Gonna be quick on this. They hired for their offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, and this caused a huge panic, but he has Ben Johnson similarities. I believe they coached together, kind of came up through the same systems. And the Cardinals had serious injury problems during his time there. Around the NFL and among Detroit's players, notably Amon-Ra St. Brown, they seem like everybody seems to think in those circles, oh, this is a great hire. The panic is really coming a lot from fans, and I think that's because you wanted something, maybe some of the Detroit media, but really what you wanted, something splashy. You wanted like this big, like, a name was going to comfort you that the offense was going to be fixed. Like Mike McDaniel was going to come in, and that was going to make you feel more comfortable. Like, oh, it's fixed. But he's been strong in the run game, good use of the tight end, makes good use of the running back out of the backfield. Like, I'm curious to see how it works before making a sweeping judgment, but I know that the whole thing with sports is to make predictions and then see if you're correct, because that's how you're, oh, well, that guy's smart because he predicted X, Y, and Z, or that person's dumb because they got that wrong. But I'm really more curious. I think the formula is there for this to work. I just don't think that it's going to be... I just don't think that this was the big name hire that people were hoping for. They have the weapons. I think really any offensive coordinator that stays above, just above average with these players can succeed. They just need a steady hand, and obviously they're going to need an improved offensive line. I know that maybe this guy could come in and some of the schemes could help the offensive line play better. But ultimately it's going to come down to the offensive line. All right, I want to finish up with a few fun storylines around Detroit. I want to make sure I pull this up and get it correct. Wendell Moore, on a two-way contract for the Pistons, had 40 points on 13 of 15 shooting for the Motor City Cruise over the weekend. He hit 12 consecutive field goals. Wendell Moore, even when he was at Duke, he's always been a player to me that is just good at all facets of the game. And what I mean is good, not great. Like, he's a good ball handler. He's a good shooter. He's a good defender. He moves well without the ball. It's just he never had like one skill. He's never had one skill that just stands way out above all the others. If he could do that, if he could find one thing to be top tier at, he'd be an NBA player. And it's really weird to say that. Like, that seems like somebody that should be able to stick in the NBA because they're better than most at most things, but they're not the best or one of the best at anything, any one thing. So he feels like the archetype of a basketball player, just never got to that next level. He still could. I'll make sure. Although in sports now, if you're not an all-star in your rookie season, the fans and the media are like, bust, get him out of here. 19, talk about ancient. Yeah, he's 24, which is crazy to talk. Like, I even said that. I still think that I still believe there will be a path to the NBA for him. You look at the role that Luka Garza's carved out in Boston. So, moving on, John Gibson is the second goalie in Red Wings history to record multiple 8-game win streaks in a season. The last one was, I think it was in 95-96. It was Chris Osgood, which, unbelievable. I mean, I want to make sure I want to make sure what the Red Wings... They traded Peter Mrazek, a 26 fourth-round pick, and a 27 second-round pick for Gibson. I think that's very likely going to turn out to be like a fleecing, unless, I'm going to knock on wood here, that second one of those draft picks turns out to be, a 20-year career Hall of Famer, but it feels very much like the Red Wings did a good job there. Fleeced them. Anyway, JB Bickerstaff is going to be one of the All-Star Game coaches. The first since Flip Saunders in 2006. Again, we keep going back to that year with both pretty much the Red Wings and the Pistons right now. We're referencing a lot of the kind of that mid to late 2000s for the nonsense list. All right, and then the last little bit I saw was Cater Montero, I think, is going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic, which is pretty cool. I'm a big Cater Montero fan, as I've said a lot of times on this podcast. I really think that he could be a major league player in one of those like utility roles as a pitcher, kind of like Tyler Holton. He might have his eye though, and the Tigers might be thinking keep him as a starter, so when half of our rotation is out for the season, we have somebody to pitch. So sorry about the negativity there, and it's been pretty wild here with all the snow and the cold, but this has been the Detroit Way. Thank you for listening.